What's up guys? This is Brent with Western Equipment, and in this video I'm going to be telling you about the differences in 6-point and 12-point sockets. We're going to be talking about where these are used, different types of bolt heads that these can be used for, and some of the benefits that one may have over the other. To start, let's just talk about the overall configuration of a 6-point and 12-point socket. Now here are a couple of examples that I have: a 32 millimeter 6-point socket on this side and a 1 1/4 inch 12-point socket on this side. So right there you can tell the obvious difference is the amount of points that are inside the socket. Now, these can be used in multiple different applications, but the main topic that comes about whenever we're talking about a 6-point versus a 12-point is the amount of torque that can be put on a bolt and the amount of slippage that you may get with a 12-point versus a 6-point. Now, going back to that configuration, whenever we look at the sidewalls of the socket, we can see just how much thicker we are here on this 6-point than we are the 12, and that is always going to be the case, being that when we only have 6 points versus the 12, we have less cuts in that metal socket, so therefore we are going to have a more sturdy edge. So with having that more sturdy edge, that thicker edge, you are going to be able to get more torque on a hex head bolt with a 6-point socket versus that 12-point socket. Now, the other thing that you're also going to reduce is the chance of slippage. So being as that with a 6-point socket, you are going to have a flat surface on each flat surface of that hex head bolt, and you're also going to have a point for each one of the points on that hex head bolt. You are lessening that chance for slippage exponentially. Now, if we move to that 12-point, obviously you're going to have points in between each flat surface and each point. So therefore you have room there that if you are trying to torque really hard down on this bolt, first of all, you may not be able to get the amount of torque that you need on that bolt or the socket, either one may give way before you can reach that torque that you're trying to hit. Now, to show this a little further in detail, I've got 3 different types of bolts laid out here and the corresponding size of socket for each one of these bolts. So we'll start over here on the left-hand side. So what we have here is a square-headed bolt, and then like I said, I have the 6-point and the 12-point socket to fit that bolt. Now, first thing that we'll point out is that with a square-headed bolt, you are not going to be able to use a regular 6-point socket. So as you can see here, if I try to fit that in, no matter how I turn it, which way I go, that is not going to fit. And what we are looking at here is an 11 millimeter socket, 6-point. Now, if I move over here to the 11 millimeter 12-point socket, then I can go in with this square-headed bolt and I am able to turn that. I'd be able to use that if I was in a situation where I had a lot of these square-headed bolts that I needed to take off. I would be able to throw on a socket like this, the 12-point 11 millimeter, and take these off. But I would not be able to use a 6-point. So that is one advantage of the 12 points. Now, you're still going to have that chance of slippage, as you have to think whenever we're looking at this very closely. You can see just how much open space there is here on the side of the socket and how only 4 of the 12 points are being used. So that is one thing to consider. Whenever you're working with these square-headed bolts, your better option is to go with either an open head wrench or maybe even a crescent wrench when going to take these off. Now, next we have is going to be a hex-headed bolt. Hex-headed bolts are named obviously for the hexagon shape having the 6 sides. So obviously they are going to line up perfect here with the 6-point bolt. Now, the thing about this is if we look closely, we can see that we have a flat side of contact and all 6 points are making contact with the socket. So you are going to be able to get great torque out of this 6-point socket on this hex-headed bolt. Now, if we move over here to the 12-point, once again, these are both going to be 1/2 inch. If we move over here to the 12-point, this will also work with the hex-headed bolt. But one thing that you'll notice is that, like we talked about before, you're going to have a little bit of space there and you're going to have a point on each flat side. So that's going to lessen the surface area that is actually touching the head of that bolt, therefore lessening the amount of torque that you can put on that bolt. And over here on my right, we do have an example of a 12-point bolt here. Now, obviously on a 12-point bolt, if we try to go here with a 6-point socket, these are both going to be 13 millimeter. If we try to go here with a 6-point socket, that is not going in at all. But if we go back here with the 12-point socket, that fits perfect, and that is going to be the one that we would need for the 12-point bolt. So the question always comes about, which one's better? Which one would you prefer? I've actually gone to the shops and talked to a few technicians, and I've asked them, hey, you know, which socket's better? And the first thing they said to me is, well, it depends on the type of bolt you're working on. And that's exactly why I made sure to get an example of all three of these different types of heads to give you an idea of when you would need to use a 12-point versus a 6-point, and so you can decide whether you need a set of both, or if you're mainly only working with your standard hex head bolt, maybe all you need to buy is a set of 6-point sockets. But if you do have those instances where you are going to be working with either the square-headed bolt or a 12-point bolt, then it's definitely going to be one of those things where you may want both sets of sockets. One other benefit to the 12-point socket is that since you have the extra sides and the extra amounts of points, one thing that you can do is if you're in those tight and sticky situations, it is easier to find a groove on that bolt. If we're up under and we can't see or trying to get that on, you are going to be able to find it quicker than the 6-point since you have twice as many points. I hope this video helped you out. If it did and you liked this video, we just ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you need any parts at all, make sure to go check out 247parts.com, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to check out this cool video and this one. Buy your parts right up here and subscribe right here.